I'd like to welcome you to the board work session of the POA board today. And first item on the agenda is updated Trafalgar.
So as a result of the flooding, we had some damage at the Trafalgar site. The crew has been working with ERM, our consulting company, to assess the best way to repair the damage. We've also been notified that ADQ is potentially coming out Monday to look at the damage and how we're going to repair it and so forth. So, we had an abnormally large amount of rain in that area, and it did cause some washing out. So we're working to get that repaired as quickly as possible.
So it's wash out rather than slide or anything like that?
It's wash out.
Erosion.
The second item regarding the Highland stump dump, ADQ did officially give us notice that they're allowing us to reduce the footprint down to 7 acres. And the geosynthetic liner is on order. It should arrive towards the end of this month or the first part of next month. So we're moving along nicely on that project.
Just a layman's question. In other words, I have no clue. Do we put that on, or does the company have to come out and do that?
The company is doing that. Because we're going from 10 down to 7 acres, that should save us some money, but there are some fixed costs in there that don't change as a result of the footprint, but it should definitely help us out quite a bit.
Any other questions on those two items? Jan? Okay.
Regarding the October flood, I just got off the phone with Mike and Keith. They gave us an update. The wall of honor is almost completely cleaned up at this point. Stony Creek, they planned that area was washed out. That's a boat landing. They hope to start working on that fairly soon. The dog park, the small section is completely gone. We're trying to determine exactly what the going forward strategy is. It may have to go into the 2020 budget because it probably makes no sense to rebuild in the exact same site because it could get washed out again. And it's not just the fencing is gone, the whole thing is obliterated. I mean, it's really took a major hit. With regards to the golf courses, the following courses are open: Dogwood, Brittany, Highlands, Scottsdale, Back 9, Country Club Country Club Back 9 also, and Kingswood are all open. Keith anticipates that Country Club Front 9 will open this Saturday. Scottsdale Front 9 is going to take the longest. We're probably looking at least 3 more weeks until that area opens up because of the bridge damage and irrigation damage.
Whole number for the bridge.
2. Which one is that?
Is it 2?
There are 2 locations. It's the number 2,
Which one?
where you go across the bridge to the green. There's some major erosion around that that's going to have to be fixed. And then the second bridge on number 8, where you go and cross the creek from the landing area to fairway for your second shot. And that eroded on both ends on the downside, just like it always does. It always washes over and erodes from the downside. It undermined the far end, the green side end of the cart path. There was this one washed out from under the path and exposed all the irrigation lines. So that one, we were very likely that path will have to be destroyed and rebuilt on that end. The one at the Country Club where it goes under 340 under Lancashire, that come up with a means of putting a temporary fix on that, primarily because of the fact that that road's going to get rebuilt one of these days anyway. We don't want to put a whole lot of money into something that's going to be torn out. So they came up with a plan to fix that. It'll be safe and usable, but it won't cost us as much money as that today. It's just a matter of rebuilding that path on the one end. It costs some money, but it's still going to take some time. The contractor should be out there by Monday working on that, as I recall from Keith.
At the Country Club, they're going to still use the under 1001 and not reroute it?
That's correct.
Okay.
We talked about regrading it, and sometime back, here I'm rambling again, but sometime back when we had shotguns, people used that crossing at Dogwood, and I railed against that unless we put up signage, because there's too much liability with letting people go through there. Same issue as if we let people play down, because there's a lot of construction traffic going through there now, not to mention the residents. So I'm glad that they came up with an alternative on that to not have to use it. It's awkward, it would have been awkward at best.
We should have be able to firm up some numbers by next week's meeting as to what the overall cost is going to be. But right now, it's too fluid to really give you an idea. Definitely not as bad as some of the previous floods that we've experienced, but still it will be a substantial hit. And these are not going to be, since the majority of the work that has to be done is in flood zones, we won't be able to do any insurance claims.
Any other questions on that one?
I received a phone call from a member asking something I'm not knowledgeable about at all, but it was in regards to the flow from Bentonville and all the moving that they're doing, bringing more rainwater down to our area, and that they were asking if there was any legal ramification of trying to find out if they're doing what they're doing correctly in other cities that are affecting us. It was brought up by a member. I wanted to bring it up to you guys. I don't know an answer if anybody has looked into that.
So we did look at that last year. David was on that committee and Jim was on that committee where we had the flood study done. What's interesting is if you look at this flood study, you can see a satellite image from, I think it's 97, and then they overlay that compared to 2017, so a 20-year difference. Now the quality of the one from 97 is not a great quality of the satellite image because it's 20 years ago, but you can, and then what they did was they carved out what the watershed is, which is 85 square miles. So on that 85 square miles, you can see the urbanization 97 compared to 2017, and it is tremendous. And when you have rainwater falling on rooftops and sidewalks and parking lots as opposed to pasture lands, you have a problem. We did look into, could you potentially go after a city, upstream and so forth, and the advice that we were told was that's really hard to prove, and it's really hard to justify, and probably not worth the legal expense because of the unlikelihood of having a successful outcome.
There's no way we could win that, or at least we'd wind up spending money for years and years and years and really not get anything out of it. But sadly, they haven't controlled development in that area, Tia, and that's the one that's hurting us. It's Centerton, Bentonville, North Bentonville, Rogers, Pea Ridge. They haven't controlled it. They haven't put together the program so the post-event runoff doesn't exceed what the pre-event would have been. That was the criteria, always has been. You have to be able to hold back so much water. That hadn't been done because it was pretty much uncontrolled development in many of those cases, especially in the suburban areas. In the cities, they do a little better job of it. And all these developments outside, they just haven't done it. They're doing better now. If you look out at Centerton, you're starting to see some big storm retention and detention ponds and areas out there, but for years they didn't do it.
And also, one of the major areas that we got hit was the dog park at Loch Lomond and also at Stony Kirk. And those are not on the Little Sugar Creek watersheds, they're on the Gordon Hollow watershed. So that has nothing to do with Bentonville. And so it's just the extreme amount of rain. I live on Loch Lomond, and I can tell you, I went on my dock at about 11 and my shoes were barely getting wet, and by 3 my knees were getting wet. That's a short amount of time to get that much additional water. It was a tremendous amount of water came down.
That's the Gravit watershed area. and they got about 12 inches of rain.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. Update on the 2020 assessment.
Gave a total of 55 speeches in about 30 days, and I want to compliment Ruth for attending about 50 of those. Fantastic, and I would like to thank board members. Many of you attended a large number of those meetings also. We had just over 1,500 total attendees. We were able to collect over 300 volunteers to make calls. Volunteers made approximately 16,000 calls. We should get the final number today, but as of Monday, it was 15,000. So we had 2 additional days, and yesterday was a fairly busy day. The video that we put together has been viewed just under 1,700 times. And as of just a few minutes ago, 16.2% of the vote had been cast. Based upon the timing of when the ballots went out and how they would have to be returned, my guess is that that is all online voting and no paper ballots, because the paper ballots are sent out on the 9th. U.S. mail, you get it several days later, then you decide to vote, and then you send it in, and it gets to TIE, the inspectors of election, and then they collect a number of them, and then they process them. So chances are hardly any of those, the 16.2 include paper ballots. So I would say that within the next week, you'll start seeing the paper ballots start impacting that percentage, and we'll start seeing that percentage goes up. We had tracked the day-to-day number of votes cast in 16, but we can't find that data. So off of memory, I would say that I think we're ahead of 2016, but I'm not 100% positive. I think we are ahead, but not positive.
Just for clarification, I've had several people ask if the paper ballot does not come to Bella Vista.
No, we don't touch it at all. The election committee does not touch it at all. It goes to the inspectors of election. They handle it. They are a third party. They are indifferent.
And we will know nothing until the 19th.
The only thing that we know, and everybody knows this, and you can see it when you cast your vote, and if you keep your passcode, you can go back in and you can see, you can't re-vote, but you can see the amount of people that have cast a vote, but you can't see how they have voted. So nobody knows any of that. I personally will be on pins and needles until November 19th.
Because I've been asked by several people, how do they get the job of counting the ballots? And I said, you don't. There is no job. Yeah.
That way, it's a third party. That way, we are arm's length. Could you imagine an elections committee counting potentially 20,000 ballots? Boy, the degree of error could be a lot.
We counted for a long time.
What's interesting is we switched over to TIE in 2016, and the elections committee at that time, Buddy was in charge of it, and we got 100 ballots, and we marked those. We did the test run. We marked those. At that time it was for the board election, and we voted them, and then we tracked. And we also intentionally made errors on the sample of ballots. TI got it 100% right. The number of ballots that we cast online, and the number we cast them online, and we also sent them in versus paper. They got it 100% right, and everyone where the ballot was marked correctly, they nailed it across the board. It was very, very impressive. That's my update. And Doug was asked to give an update regarding our lawsuits.
Yes, so the board recalls there are 2 separate lawsuits that are going on right now, a federal case and then the state case. In the federal case, that's where Philadelphia Insurance has sued us in federal court where they believe they have a better chance of winning. We have filed a motion to dismiss in the federal case, and the hearing on that is November 12th of this year. This year is relevant to the state case, so I'll give you an update on that. But so we're on the federal case. We'll have a hearing coming up on November 19th. The state case is where we call that the Macomber case. They're the lead plaintiffs in the case, and there's a tentative trial date scheduled for April of 2021. Again, that's tentative. That just tells you how far out the state court is before they're hearing jury trials on these types of things. But as you can see, I've got a large list of the things that are taking place in the case, discovery requests from all the plaintiffs and the defendants. So in the state case, as you know, we've cross-claimed, the POA has cross-claimed against 4 other cross-defendants: Brown Street Care, BTS Equipment, Thomas Frederickson, and Blue Mountain Storage. And so, like I mentioned, we're still in the discovery phase with all of those people. The plaintiffs filed a second amended complaint, so every time they amend their complaint, we have to answer, and every single one of these defendants have to answer, and then we have to review those to make sure that we're not missing anything. So they filed a second amended complaint about 3 weeks ago, and we had to answer that yesterday, which we did. And as that goes on, we're continuing to field discovery requests from every party and answering those, and then getting discovery requests from the other parties that are giving those to us. So it's going to be a long process in the state case. Hopefully I'll have some more information on the federal case in the middle of November, but the state case is going to take some time to go through. Any questions on that?
No questions on that? Okay. Before we go to open forum, is there anything else that anybody has? Let's go to open forum. No one? No one wants to talk to us. We're sorry to hear that. Okay, if not, announcements. Thursday of next week at 6 o'clock, the boardroom is a regular meeting. The GM meeting is November 7th at 9 o'clock, and that will be here at the Country Club. The board work session, we will present the budget on Thursday, November 14th at 6 o'clock at Reardon Hall. So that's a change of location and a change of date for November work session. Actually, 2 changes. It moves up a week. And the special meeting for the election is November 19th on a Tuesday at 6 o'clock at Reardon Hall. And then that Thursday, the 21st, is a regular board meeting for November. Nothing else for the good of the cause? We stand adjourned.